More figure drawing using the peanut method. Hello everyone and welcome to the figure drawing sheet number 15. This one gonna be drawing 15 dynamic and difficult poses using the peanut method. I usually do one of these after each method tutorials video, so this time let's practice the last one we did. If you want to learn about the method itself, you can check the video showing up on the cards right now on the top right side, or check the link in the description box. But before we do that, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment down below. So let's jump in and start with the first example. Now just a warning before you start watching these poses. These poses are really tricky and very complicated, and I'm actually struggling nailing them down correctly due to the foreshortening, perspective angles, and the complicated pose itself. So you're gonna see a lot of correcting and deleting going on, but I picked up those hard poses on purpose to show that the peanut method is perfect for it. It's really a great way to break down a complicated figure pose into basic shapes, just detailed enough to nail the initial pose, and then going on with the details afterward. That's the most important part, is to nail down the motion of the figure in as very few lines as possible. Then you can take your time with the details afterwards. Now for the first pose, the model is sitting down on bended leg, with arms raised up. And there is a bit of a twist in the torso as well. The first thing you do is to draw the torso as a peanut shape. Dictate where the rib cage is, where the groin line are, and then the joints of the arms and the leg. Once you have enough data to describe your pose, lower the opacity and start drawing in the details. Take your time with the first stage. It's very important one to nail the pose correctly, so slow down and take your time with it. And even if you have any mistakes with the initial pose, don't be afraid to change it while drawing the details. The framework is there to show you 80 to 90% of where the lines should be, so there is always room for error afterward. These poses took between 15 to 20 minutes each. I tried not to speed it up as much as I'm doing it right now, because I get so many comments that the drawing part is so fast. But I have so many examples that if I left the speed of the drawing as it is in real time, the video will be between 5 to 6 hours long, and I'm pretty sure no one will watch that. So this is going to be from 6 hours sped up to around half an hour or so. So it's sped up around 10 to 12 times. I had to tell you that so you don't assume that this is how fast you should be. If it takes you an hour per pose, go for it. As I always say, speed will come later. Accuracy should be your first and forever goal. So after finishing the initial pose and the first draft of the details, I can lower the opacity again and add more line weight variety, correct more mistakes, and clean up the outline. And here we are, one pose done, 14 to go. In this second pose, the model has her bended knee on a chair along with her hands, while she has one leg on the floor. The gesture line for this should be one line from the feet toward the head in one gesture. So make sure the torso and the legs align to make it look like the legs are coming out from the torso, not from a skewed position. After I draw the main peanut, I will attach the legs and the arms to it. Other methods I usually start with the head. Maybe all of them I start with the head, but for this method it's really not that important. It's almost always the last thing I draw, because you can't really mess up the head that much. There are no joints in the head, and we are drawing the figure, not the portrait, so we won't even add any details to the head. As long as you draw the rest of the figure correctly, the head can come in later on. After finishing the initial pose, I lower the opacity and add the new layer for the detailed outline. Finally, the third layer for the line weight and final details. And it's done. In this pose, we have the model sitting on the edge of the box on an angle, hands behind her on a box and the head tilted backward. We start with the peanut, add the rib cage and the pelvis line, shoulders and then the head. Now we add the breasts, the arms and finally the legs. And then I add a layer for the details and the line weight all together just to save some time. And it's done. On to the next. This one, the model is on the floor with her arms on the box and the legs stretched on the floor. As always, we start with the peanut torso, then it's up to you where to move on from here. Anchor your drawing down, nailing the gesture and the torso, and you won't go wrong afterward. So that's why we always go with the torso first. The good thing about drawing in basic shapes is that you can simply cut, move, rotate and scale any part before you commit to any details. It's really much easier to modify in that initial stage. Awesome, and it's done. Next one, we have a very difficult pose, with the model bending backward, sitting on her knees and stabilizing herself with the arms bending backward. The most important part here is the hips. They should show where the pelvis is sticking out and where the ribcage is pointing at. Once you do this correctly, it will guide the rest of your image in the right way. Now I wish I can show you the reference photos for these drawings, just to point out what I'm drawing. But thanks to YouTube, these images will demonetize the video even if I cover the genitals up. Even the drawings themselves got most of my video demonetized, but I managed to review manually and get them back, except for a couple of ones where I had the photos in. So I had to put the photos on the second monitor before I draw this. It's a sad state of affairs when you have figure drawing videos considered as dangerous for adult audience. Because my videos aren't for kids, all of them are set for adult audience. So I have no idea what's going on with YouTube censoring figure drawing. But anyway. Now I like this pose, it looked much better than I thought, and I think it's all due to the correct peanut shape in the beginning. It made everything better afterward. Okay, the next one is a simpler example with the model on the floor with the hands behind her head. The only complicated part here is the legs going in different directions. So let's start with the torso and go on from there. This one we have the model on her knees with the curved back. The shoulders are going a bit back and the butt is raised up. So it's leaving the prominent dip in the hip area. This dip will make the torso easier to draw when you have such an extreme angle. Anytime you draw it wrong, you can see it right away. Now in this one, the model is sitting on a box with her arms close together between her legs, so we have the torso again with a prominent curve and the legs going in different directions. Now this one we have the knee on the box and the back is arched upward, leaving a curved back and a raised head. Here I used the wrapping tool in Photoshop to make sure that the pelvis is raised up a bit more and make the curve a bit more deeper. And it's done. Now the model in this one is sitting on her toes, looking down at the floor, with her arms on her knees. Again, follow the curvature of the back and make sure your torso is correct, and then you can attach the rest of the body parts to it afterward. And always keep your eye on the measurements and angles of the surrounding body parts. Now this is another hard pose, with an extremely stretched torso to the back. Also her arms are crossed, hiding her tilted face, while her legs are moving backward in perspective. So take your time, this one took about 10 minutes more than the rest, just to make sure the perspective of every part is correct. But since I drew the torso correctly, everything else fell in place right away. The next one we have the model leaning on a chair, with the head tilted up and the hands on the chair, while the feet are bent backward. This one took a lot of adjusting, but eventually it worked out. Maybe the other leg was a bit smaller, but it was far away in the reference. I don't know, it looked fine in the end. You will eventually gonna like some of your figure drawings more than the others. I mean, out of the 15, I think I liked 5, maybe 5 of them, that I may use for future designs. But that's why it's always good to do more than one, so you can have as many options as possible. The next one we have the model sitting on a box, one arm on her thigh and the other is behind her back, while twisting the torso backward. Not a simple pose, especially because the upper part of her body is moving away from us, while the lower part is moving toward us. So we're gonna see a difference in scale between the legs and the head. Now eventually I ended up scaling the lower half up in size. Okay, for number 14 we have the model on her hands and feet bent over the box, with her head down and her pelvis up. This isn't a hard pose since we can only see one leg and one arm at the same time, so it's basically a side view, but still the torso needs to be correct for this pose to work out. Alright, for the final pose we have the model leaning on a box with one knee and two arms on it. The other feet is on its toes while the torso is arched up. While doing all this, the best part was the confidence I have while drawing the pose. I can get my hand on any pose I want after finishing this sheet. It's really amazing how this method works out in any situation you want, no matter how complicated the pose is. And here it is, the final sheet, all 15 of them. It was a really fun exercise doing all of them, even though some of them were really tough. But with the peanut method, you can't go wrong, as long as you practice it over and over. It's a well-tried method with amazing results. This is it for this figure drawing exercise. I'm still working on that third book video, but things are getting a bit crazy where I live, so the situation is getting really bad here. We are having a lot of electricity cuts and civil unrest and just craziness everywhere. But as always, I will try to make the best of it, hopefully, and finish the video as soon as possible. But instead of just waiting for the video to finish, I thought maybe I should do this first because it's a quicker video to do. But before I go, I'd like to thank my Patreons who donated to my channel. If you'd like to donate, please go to patreon.com/rainwalker. Thank you all for your generosity. I also like to send a shout out to the members of this channel who joined last month. Thank you so much for your great contributions. If you'd like to become a member of this channel, you can hit the join button underneath this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more art tutorials for beginners, paintings, visual library exercises, and concept art tutorials and so on. You can hit the subscribe button underneath this video to stay tuned and click the notification bell to stay up to date with all the new videos coming up. So this is it for now. If you want to see other figure drawing videos for the other methods I talked about, you can click on this playlist over here, or if you want to run the figure drawing method themselves, you can click on the playlist over here. As of now, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.